Here we go. Here it is. Fingering, squishing.
Oh my God.
Just squish them all.
Pew pew! This PAX preview is brought to you by the National Campaign Against Drunk Driving. It's always a pleasure to speak to this gentleman, but to speak to him while he's showing off a new game to me, this is about as good as it gets. This is Peter Molyneux, obviously formerly of Lionhead, of Bullfrog, now with 22 Cans, and his new game, GODUS.
Yes.
Do you want to give a setup to sort of what the game is?
Okay, well, it's a God game, and I was really lucky, is the more the word, lucky to stumble upon this genre back in 1989 with a game called Populous, and I always thought, you know, ever since I made Populous, I've always really wanted to go back and say, you know, how can we redefine what that is? And so GODUS is, I think of it as being a reinvention of what we think of as a God game, which sounds like a big thing, but there's lots of big stuff in GODUS.
Now, obviously, you're invoking Populous. Throughout your career, you have gone back and touched on the concept of the God game, probably most notably with Black and White. Is this more sort of directly related to Populous, or are you seeing it informed by some of your other efforts?
It's actually a combination of some of the land manipulation stuff from the original Populous, which wasn't explored in Black and White at all. The multiplayer from Dungeon Keeper and the kind of the worldliness of Black and White. So it's going back, and the first thing I did before even starting on GODUS, I went back and played all those games again and realized just how rubbish a lot of my design features were in them. I mean, the interface from Populous was just atrocious.
That was a very, very long time ago before people had thought about user interfaces.
It's like going back and seeing TV series from the 70s. None of them were good. We just have fond memories of them. And, you know, looking at Black and White, again with Black and White, it was just like a million different things all jumbled together. And then with Dungeon Keeper, we never really refined the multiplayer game well enough. And so it's looking at all the bad stuff and removing that, but keeping all the goodness.
Well, sounds good.
And adding in crazy stuff from things like the experiment with curiosity that we did as well. So let's have a look at it.
Yes, so let's see this distillation of the good stuff.
Yes. To start off with, we tried for a very different art style, and that art style really has affected the game. But before I start talking about the game, I want to give you the context and some of the things which I think are cool about this game. And the first thing we're going to talk about is this concept of a living world. Now, every game I've done has in some ways had a simulation as part of that game. And GODUS, it is the pinnacle of every simulation game I've ever done. And I'm going to show you some features which I think are pretty cool, and they all add together. And then at the end of this demo, I'm going to be my big reveal about that simulated world. But before we start, I just wanted to set one thing up very quickly so I can show it. Okay, so this world that we're in here at the moment, it is completely fully deformable. It has weather patterns, it has seasons, the trees will grow, the landscape will change, and the water will flow. It is truly vast. This land at the moment, you can see all the coloured region here is stuff that I control. As I get more powerful as a god, then this will expand out, and then outside this region, this landscape goes on for almost forever. Actually, the land is procedurally generated, and it's about the size of Jupiter,
which is bigger than Earth,
which is 1,325 times bigger than Earth. There's two reasons we picked Jupiter. One is a gameplay reason. We need every square inch of the size of a planet like that for one of our game features. And the other reason was that Notch made Minecraft the size of Neptune, and of course me, the competitive idiot that I am, had to say, "Pah, Neptune, we can fit 2,000 Neptunes inside GODUS.
See, if you guys had started with slightly smaller planets, this competition could go on within the Milky Way. Now we have to go for the funny number.
We've got the universe, haven't we? We can start moving to suns. And this, the world that we've got here is your landscape. It's like your canvas. And what you can do is deform any part of it. So I'm just going to show you, to start off with, the most basic of all your god powers. You have many god powers in this game, and some of them are hugely destructive, and some of them are very, very creative. But at the start of the game, the thing that you can do is sculpt the land. We call it sculpting because it feels a little bit creative, but it's also bounded to the game. And the way you sculpt is just to tap on any edge of the land and then just pull that land out or push it back. And in that way, I can just sculpt. And this, we spend a long time refining this. You can do that slowly and carefully, or you can do it much, much faster. This is very important in multiplayer. There are multiplayer lands which are really all about speed sculpting. As you get more powerful as a god, so your sculpting abilities get more powerful. So I can double click instead of pulling, and that's called smart sculpting, and that, as you see, that'll line things up for you. As you get more powerful again, I can do something called cliff sculpting, where I can just pull out whole sections of the land.
Now, these various layers, are they there from the beginning, or are we looking at a more advanced level and you've kind of built it?
No, the world is generated at the start. It's generated on an Amazon server, but we've already got our world generated now on an Amazon server. And this is almost your currency, the amount of land you've got. Now, when you first start out playing GODUS, you can't raise the land or lower the land. You can only push and pull it. But one of your powers when you upgrade is the ability to build things. And people have made the most incredible landscapes. They've recreated those. This is based in a more arid region. It's not very green, but some of them have recreated the arches in
Monument Valley, and
exactly. And you know what people have done already with just a few hundreds of people that have played it has been really incredible. As you sculpt, every sculpt you make, Adam, is changing the simulation a little bit. And let's give you two examples of that. One is, let's go down here. If I start moving this land out here, you can just see at the bottom there, the tidal patterns are starting to change. It's starting to adjust the tide of the land. Now that will in turn slightly affect the wind direction, which will slightly affect the weather on the entirety of this planet. I really should think of a name of this planet, but we're calling it, the Jupiter-like planet. So that's one example, and that becomes important if there's a forest fire, because if there's a forest fire, the forest fire will spread in the direction of the wind. Let's take this water, for example. At the moment, and I'm going to say at the moment a lot in this demo, at the moment, water isn't a real resource that's important to you. The little people like living by the water, but it's not necessary for them. So we'll just adjust this water now. We'll just dam it off here, and then we'll just take the flow of this water down here, and you can create a little waterfall. And then, at the moment, this is very aesthetic. Now, as you're doing all this, you're also playing the game, and let's show you an example of that. For example, here, if I'm starting to sculpt out, you can see as I sculpt out, these little plots appear, and this is giving you a clue about what the little people will do with this flat land. At this stage of the game, all they're interested in is building houses. That's all they care about at this stage. So let's just see, if I just ask one of these people to come out just by tapping on their house, they come out and start building. Of course, as with all of my games, I love giving the ability for the people to be cruel. So you can worry your people, and you have got a god power which is called the Finger of God. That's called fingering your people. and and you can do that. We'll do that later on.
I think I'm already getting to see the joys of self-publishing right here.
Yes. So that at this stage in the game, all you care about as a player is increasing your population. And let me introduce you to these two bars. There's two things I want you to care about. Again, simple, really simple mechanics. This bar up here, the blue bar, that is a number of people that currently worship you in your world. As I build houses, they'll move into houses, they'll breed, more people will come into this world, and when this bar reaches 750, I will get a new god power. Mm-hmm. That's the rule. As the bar fills up, you get a new god power. The more people you have, the more belief these people generate, which is this stuff down here, and that belief is the stuff that's used to power your god powers. So every time I sculpt, it uses a little bit of belief, and when and then I collect the belief from my people. Now I keep saying at the moment, because actually in this game what you're doing is something truly awesome. You're not just playing a god game. I have stolen, and I admit I've stolen, a feature from Civilization. You are taking your people from the primitive Stone Age, your Adam and Eve, just two people at the start of the game. You're taking them through the primitive age, into the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Philosophical Age, eventually to the Space Age. And as they go through each one of these stages, so they advance. At the moment, all they know how to do is build little huts. But eventually you're going to have cities with skyscrapers and planes and cars. You're going to have the multiplayer battles you're going to play. You're not going to play with fist fights. You're going to play with swords and spears and bows and arrows. Advancing your people through the history of man himself is something I think is hugely motivational for me as a player.
Well, what's also really interesting is you're kind of putting this role of belief as kind of the cornerstone of societal advancement.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that, especially when you're getting to sort of more rational stages, the philosophical age, the scientific age, in many ways seem to be counterintuitive to a type of sort of like rote faith. I mean, are you going to play with? I mean, there's some very interesting territory right there.
But this is where it gets truly interesting, and I have to show you this on a piece of paper. Now I can reveal to you why we want it the size of Jupiter.
All right.
And why we did Curiosity. Because when you start playing GODUS, you have a tiny little plot on this planet. 100 kilometers away, there's another human being that's also sculpting and building their little civilization and deciding what is right and wrong. And as you play the game, your two areas of influences continue expanding. Then maybe after you play for a couple of weeks, suddenly you'll come into the game and see someone else, another civilization on the horizon. What are you going to do? Are you going to... We allow you some simple choices. You can join forces. You can say, my people and your people are now one people. That's going to give you a huge boost when you go through this list, but they're not your people anymore. Or you can be isolationist. You can say, I want nothing to do with the outside world at all. My faith, my religion, my people are my people. You are heathens. Or you can be cooperational. And I think this whole game of GODUS is about this one massive planet where we're all building a civilization together, we're all sculpting, we're all crafting that civilization. What happens when we all link up is going to be truly fascinating.
All right, you have my attention now.
Yeah. And
just to clarify, those other people, those other faiths, those are actually other players.
Those are other human players, and you can, if I were to scroll up, we're offline at the moment, but if I were to scroll over, if I scroll far enough, you'll eventually come to someone, you can see them sculpt. Oh, wow. You can see their people, we've got this lovely mechanic in there, where we differentiate. When you found your GODUS people, you get given some people. For example, in fact, I'll just take you over and show you another area of my land that I've been working on. Over here is A little bit more of my colony you can see here. And my people normally, they are, when I started the game, I had brown-haired, blue tunicked people. Now, if you start the game, Adam, you may start with someone who looks like this. The red-haired people. Now, what happens when the red-haired people meet the brown-haired people?
You're going to get a new type of people.
Well, you're going to get a new type of people, and it's going to be really fascinating when these cultures meet, to see what happens when people cooperate or if they remain isolationist. I have a prediction, and it's a pretty depressing one.
Well, I want to hear your prediction, but I just want to just kind of get a basic sense of the system. So obviously various players have their various people and they're building that up. When, for lack of a better word, this miscegenation happens, how much of that is procedural because of the systems in the game, and how much of it will be player controlled, how those changes start to evolve?
Well, this is the shocking thing. This simulation of living world I talked about applies to the whole world. If you adjust this tidal pattern here, infinitesimally it will change the weather that is moving across the world. The entirety of this globe, because there's one huge simulation that's all working together.
I mean, you're fundamentally what you're describing is you're creating chaos theory inside of a game.
Yeah, we're finding it, and this is why we did that crazy curiosity experiment. We wanted to prove that we could support, curiosity could support hundreds of thousands of people doing something simultaneously. We had 60 billion cubelets because we needed them to prove that we could do something as crazy as this.
All right. Well, show me more. This is actually
more. Now remember, everything I'm showing you applies to the primitive age. All the game mechanics that I've shown you continue to enhance. So at the primitive age, you're just collecting belief like this, and I'm going to collect my belief. And this is an interesting design problem. My design problem is I want you to engage with your people, and I quite like you collecting belief like this. So I'll collect this belief. Actually, as I'm collecting belief, it is playing Mozart's second concerto, note by note. That concerto goes on for 45 minutes. And if you want to get the true big bonus, you've got to collect.
You're just be collecting a lot.
You're going to be collecting a lot of things. Now, here's the interesting thing is, after a while, our pledgers on our Kickstarter said, what the hell are you doing? I hate collecting this belief. It feels like one of those free-to-play games. It feels like Farmville. It feels like Clash of Clans. Why do you do that? And that's when we revealed this. And this is where an advance can be an improvement in your gameplay. One of your God powers is the ability to say to your little people, collect together and do things together. And this is in the primitive times. And that's when you put down the statue, and that creates a little settlement. This is the earliest form of people coming together. And here, you only have to collect belief once. This is a horrendous sound plug. This is eventually going to turn into a little village. And that village will turn into a little town, and that town will turn into a city. As you go through the eras, so your sculpting ability will change. I'll be helping my little people, and I'll sculpt the roads by pulling out these roads. In other words, that sculpting mechanic doesn't just apply to the landscape, it applies to absolutely everything.
Because part of the infrastructure, and I assume as you get to the more sophisticated ages.
Exactly. And if you've ever been, I know you've been to London.
Yes.
And you will recognize parts of London were founded 1,000 years ago, and that's why our crazy road system, which doesn't make any form of sense, is because we used to build roads around trees because we like the look of trees. That's what the British
Well,
did.
they're also hard to cut down.
They're hard to cut down, but the Americans just go straight on through.
We'll put a hole in the tree and put the road through it.
So what this is going to be the center of perhaps of your London. And later on in the game, this is going to be a massively.
You're still going to see kind of those foundations from the earlier civilization.
Exactly. And You'll see your civilization build up in height, and I can show you a few shots of that. So, building a civilization on this massive, huge planet, meeting other people is really amazing stuff. But let's talk about a couple of other things, a couple of other game features which are really important. The first thing is to talk about this book here. There's obviously, we're currently in the primitive age, and the metaphor that we're giving you, how you advance from the primitive age to the Bronze Age, which you can do after playing for about 4 hours, you can advance to the Bronze Age. You want to get to the Bronze Age because that's when they start inventing weapons and stuff like that. Is we just simply say you have got to find or collect or steal or borrow these cards. There are 3 ways of getting those cards. The first way is filling this bar up. When you fill this bar up, this is the only objective we give you in the game actually, is fill the bar up, you'll get a card. And that card, when you fill this page up, will advance you to the next age. There are many cards to collect. These are some of the cards that I've found already. I got the Smart Sculpting's card. That's that double clicking I showed you when I got to population 200. I'm going to show you the Totem God Power in a second. But there are some cards missing. And this is the second way of getting cards. The second way of getting cards is to play multiplayer games. And because my cards are different from your cards. And so I'm missing card 1, and the only way I'm going to get card 1 is playing you in a multiplayer match and winning card 1, and that completes my deck. And I love this idea. Everything you do, multiplayer, single player, story, it adds to your homeworld, it adds to your civilization, and encouraging me and you to play because you've got something I want is really cool.
So when you start a game, it will not have all the cards within that. You have to start engaging with other people.
Your people are going to be different to my people. Their starting abilities are going to be different to my people. The third way of getting cards is the way you play. And how much sculpting you do, how much you use your god powers dictates the flavor and the belief of your people. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. The way you play as well, for example, if you're a sculptor, you're going to be rewarded. For a really good example of that is over here. Underneath this tree here, you can just see there's hidden a chest. If I just clear these trees out of the way, I can open this chest and I get a card. That's the simplest way of getting it. This is called excavating. The other more exciting way of excavating, there are big things to excavate. For example, there is this massive head, which I've been excavating for quite some time. This is the start of this this vast statue, which has a real kind of surprise to it. Anyway, so those are the three ways of getting cards. Let's go in and show you a multiplayer battle.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into a single player game at the moment, but essentially everything I'm going to show you is the same. Now, on offer here is a new type of follower. Whenever you get new followers, it's up to you as a god whether you encourage them to breed or you discourage them to breed. Some people like to keep their separate looking followers separated from each other, and some people like to mix them together. We don't say what's right or wrong about any of that stuff. But we'll go and play this now. Now, I have played this multiplayer game an enormous amount, and for me, Adam, this is a delightful RTS game. I love RTS games, I've always loved them, but for me, games like StarCraft 2 just got too complicated and too pro-gamer for me. And what we've tried to do is strip everything back and return to what really is important. And what's important to me is that adrenaline rush of crushing you and annihilating you. And I'm going to show you this in this little thing. It'll only take a little while. So here we have my blue people versus your red people. We're playing for a set of cards. If I win, I'm going to win some of my people. Incidentally, these people I've had to take from my home world. So I've made, if I lose, I'm going to make a lot of orphans.
So there is quite a bit of risk for the player to engage in something like this.
If you lose, you're going to slow down your progression. This is this totem power. This is the only way of controlling your followers. Use it with caution because it does affect your followers' free will. And you don't want to crush their free will. As you know the whole concept of Christianity is free will. You don't want to be the sort of God that just has robots moving around. Anyway, we'll use these followers. This is a harrowing sound effect coming in any second now. We'll use these followers to do some simple attacking. And I just place this totem up here. There's an enemy battle here. And I'll just go into attack here. All of this little instance, this is no longer on the Jupiter planet, is all safe and separated from your world. I can still use all of my land manipulation tools to do this. At the moment, these little followers, they have no concept of ranking or armies. They've got no weapons because we're in the primitive stage. When you move to the Imperial Age, there'll be battalions of people.
So what are they fighting with other than ill intent?
They're fighting with their fists.
Oh, okay.
That's it. But I could be fighting against you, and if you're in the Bronze Age, they're going to be fighting with swords. If you have got to the Modern Age, they're going to be fighting with guns. And that's why we allow you to say, I want to take 200 people of my followers versus your 20 people. So they've taken over those people at the top there. I'm going to move them down the bottom here, and I'm just going to use my smart sculpting to help me build some systems.
So clearly also, assuming that you have been diligent in your single player world and you found a lot of cards, this is going to give you some strategic advantage when you go into the multiplayer.
Exactly, it is. I mean, we've spent a long time balancing that so that there's nothing that is really sort of too unbalanced about that. So I'll just move these people down and I'll just put them here, and I'm going to help them out a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of my more advanced god powers. And I love the fact that god powers they're powerful, they make you feel more powerful as god, but there's also a little bit of skill involved. So this is the meteor strike. The skill here is to throw the meteor down. So if I now cast this meteor strike down, it's the direction and the angle I cast it. I'll just start up here and just throw it down there. I'll just take those people out there and then take these people down. Maybe take a little strike down here and take out that bit there.
Now what's kind of regulating that so you just can't do it over and over and over again?
So I've turned this off, but normally there's an area of influence around each one of your abodes. And you can do anything in that area of influence and nothing outside it.
So you want to kind of expand that.
Exactly. What I should have done is built a little house up here, and that would have given me access to the people down there. So these great multiplayer battles that we've had at work, where you're either building an army or you're saving up your belief, because if you take all the little people from these houses, then they won't be generating belief. So you're storing up belief, I'm building an army, we come and clash, we're sculpting away, it's just fantastic.
I mean, it's also, I don't think I've considered this before, but this is such a distillation of what an RTS is, that it really is all about manifest destiny. I'm trying to move out into your world as quickly as possible and take it over.
And I love the thing about it's using limited resources in a really exciting way. And if you've got Meteor Strike and I've got Meteor Strike and our two people are battling away, it's so tempting just to zap them all. But you're killing off all these husbands and wives from your homeworld. You're going to go back and you hear all these crying babies because you've just killed off all those people. It's all those consequences. I'll just finish off this land by doing a little bit of the finger of God. Here we go. Here it is. Fingering, squishing.
Oh my God.
Just squish them all.
Now, is there a way to win these battles without necessarily having to obliterate all of the other people?
You can. There are different versions of multiplayer games. One of them is called Armageddon, where you build up the two races and then they come and get together and clash. We haven't implemented. We are considering the God power persuasion, but at the moment it is a multiplayer.
Yeah, I was thinking that this could also be a way to kind of get more people into your
yes, indeed.
civilization.
If you win, one of the cards that you can win, there's a couple of unique cards. One of the cards that you can win gives you a portion of the people that you've defeated. You can also, Adam, and this is one of my favourite features, these are the cards that I've won from this battle. One of my favourite features in the game is, and it's a crazy, stupid little feature, but it actually is meaningful, and we're offline at the moment, so we can't support it, is I can win you. Card 16 is your persona. And when you play multiplayer, if you win it, then someone will come into my world and he'll have a little name tag over the top of him, Adam. Now, what am I going to do with you? Am I going to put you
Do I even want to know what you're going to do with me?
Am I going to put you in the slums, or am I going to put you on the top of a mountain? That little name tag is also linked to your social network. So your tweets will come up inside that. which is just charming, because I've found myself tweeting, "I'm about to kill you." You know, it's just too much. It's just a charming thing. So that is as short as I can make a demo of GODUS. It's a game where you're a god to your people. You're creating this religion of people. You're going to meet on this incredible planet where everyone eventually is going to be joined up. We'll have to see what happens. You're advancing your people through the ages of man, and it's a glorious multiplayer game.
Now, earlier on, you had alluded that you have your own theory of what's going to happen with this kind of, it really is kind of a grand experiment right here. What do you think is going to happen?
I think everyone's going to be depressingly nice. And I put all this effort, we put all this effort into the evil side of Fable, and no one played it. Everyone, 90%, except you, you're a journalist. We spent, there's a huge amount of effort to doing that, and I predict the same thing is going to happen. When you meet someone else, and you see them, I bet you join forces.
Yeah, but what do you think might happen with kind of the person who fancies themselves a spoiler, or the comment troll? I mean, it does invite maybe one of the most material manifestations of that type of internet behavior. I mean, do you think there might be a corrective by the majority?
But when you're talking about griefers or trolls, quite often those are the people that haven't invested time into the experience. So if I've played a lot with Minecraft servers, and what I've noticed is that trolls and griefers tend to go into a world, destroy it, and go out again. But of course, the way that this works, this is someone who has been building up, and you've been edging towards each other. These people have invested their time in the game. And so if someone becomes a griefer, they're going to, it's not just me and you there. This is, there's a circle of people around them. And I reckon that those people will end up joining forces. Actually, I first saw something like this in a game, which I played quite a bit of, called Tribal Wars, which was a net-based game. And exactly the same thing happened. There were griefers in there, but they tended to be pushed out, and they tended to wither. Because in the end, a griefer will turn out to be an isolationist. No one will want to join forces with a griefer.
So this is coming out for Steam Early Access, which obviously means the game is not done.
It's not done, but definitely not done.
Is it going to limit how many ages you can advance into? For a game like this, I'm trying to figure out what a limited play would be. So
we're pretty confident with the design all the way up to the Imperial Age.
Okay.
We're going to, probably a week after we release, we're doing updates. 22 Cans just does GODUS. That's all we're doing is GODUS, and we're going to continue to do that. Our plan is to, we're working really hard to get this out on the 13th. And, maybe some features will have bugs in it. We may hold those features back, but we'll continue to update it. And then in October, we're going to release the iOS version. That is 100% compatible with your PC version. So you can have your home world on your tablet and on your PC. In fact, you can sculpt on your tablet and see the sculpts happening on your PC. You can play multiplayer on here. On your tablet, I choose to play it on the PC just because I prefer the mouse. Some people prefer it on the tablet.
But you also have the option to sort of be in your world both on the go and obviously
yeah, absolutely. And it's lovely just to, your world, the GODUS world is always with you. And just going on here, and maybe you just want to go on and check on a few things. I just love sculpting. And this is why we spent so long on it. It is when you start sculpting, it's hard to stop, and it is, just changing the land a little bit and making it just a little bit better is just a fundamentally nice thing to do. And I prefer to do, I like to do sculpting on the tablet as much as I like to do it anywhere else.
All right, well, Peter, you have me very intrigued. I will be one of the people trying this out on the 13th.
Of course, there's one more feature to hit you with and to realize, and again, there's justification of curiosity. The prize for curiosity was the ability to be the god of all gods in GODUS. So we have currently the god of gods. He is called Brian. He lives in Edinburgh. And every week, Brian has a dashboard where he can adjust one of 3 areas of the game of GODUS. He can make a trivial adjustment. For example, he can make all the weather in the world, everyone playing GODUS like the weather outside his window. He lives in Edinburgh. It's pretty miserable.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
We are going to set him every week a moral dilemma, and hopefully the community will set a moral dilemma which will affect the game. For example, is it right that all these little people work 24 hours a day? Brian, our god of gods, may decide that your little followers have 3 hours rest a day. He may decide later on that he's going to introduce contraception into the world, and that's going to affect the game. And then finally, he's got some gameplay changes where he can adjust the value of combat and all of that stuff. His reign will last for 6 months. During that time, he'll receive royalties from GODUS. That's a substantial amount of money that he's going to receive. At the end of 6 months,
like royalties, like actual hard currency in the real world, not in
real
GODUS.
world money.
Okay.
Money, pounds, dollars in his bank account. At the end of 6 months, those people who have earned the right can challenge him to a match of GODUS. That will be televised, and whoever wins that match will be the new god of gods, and they will then get the royalties.
Wow.
Which is, this could be a substantive amount of money,
Well, also, I mean, this really does seem kind of the culmination of a lot of your experiments.
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of the meta nature that you just described of this game is something that maybe my brain has flirted with once, but I would never think that someone would dare to execute it.
It's as I said, if you're going to reinvent a genre, you've got to bring it up to date and use today's world. And this connected world that we live in with all the cloud and the cloud compute and all that stuff, that is truly exciting, and it's going to give birth to a whole new range of games, and I hope this is one of those games.
Well, I'm very interested to see where this goes. Peter, always a pleasure.
Not at all.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
For a moment, let's get serious and acknowledge our sponsor, the National Campaign Against Drunk Driving. This is Labor Day weekend. This is one of the most dangerous weekends to be on the road because of people who have made the bad decision of getting drunk and thinking that they can drive. In an effort to save more lives on America's roadways, law enforcement agencies across the country will join forces August 14th through September 2nd to crack down on impaired drivers during the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign. A very simple statistic, in 2010, more than 10,000 people died in crashes in which a driver was at or over the legal blood alcohol limit of 0.08. Guys, Think about it. If you're not able to drive, stay put or have someone drive you home, pick up your car the next day. That inconvenience is nothing compared to facing jail time or causing someone horrible injury or even death.